Hello, my friends. Welcome to Been My Pleasure. My name is JC. To my right, my pixelated friend Dimitri is joining me. We are here recording live at Max's Sports Grill in Scottsdale. This is the Been My Pleasure last call episode. We've already worked a shift. We've discussed a couple topics already. We've introduced Dimitri and his alias. We've discussed the flavor profiles and allergy issues associated with working in the food and beverage industry.
That was wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We do have some cars driving by from time to time, but we don't think that they're interfering too much with our recording process. What we're doing here today is introducing ourselves to the food and beverage community. We're using this as a sounding board for members of the service industry, such as chefs and cooks and managers and hosts and hostesses and waiters and wait staff in general, and even guests. Those, not necessarily guests who were with us today.
No, apparently not.
But yeah, not tonight.
Not at this hour.
But not at this hour. They got to go home and go to bed. They don't work until 4 in the morning.
Or they're walking home.
Or they're walking home.
Yeah. Hopefully.
And speaking of walking home,
some guests have to make
that decision because in this state, it would be unwise to have too many drinks and drive. In fact, it's unwise at any time to drink and drive. The American Medical Association considers alcohol to be a poison. And in this state, the great state of Arizona, there are certain laws that would be, let's say, prohibitive to your freedom if you were to overserve somebody.
You transitioned to that incredibly nicely. It was almost like you were set up for it.
Well, I was thinking about it for a little bit.
Okay, fair enough.
Today we're going to talk about dram shop laws.
Oh, who doesn't love those?
Yep.
If you do not know anything about third-party responsibility or dram shop laws, essentially what it is you as a server or owner of an establishment that provides liquor or alcohol to its guests or patrons.
Or bartender.
Or bartender.
Or manager.
Or a manager.
It's a tragedy.
Anybody.
Yeah.
You serve a guest who you can tell is already intoxicated, and that guest leaves your establishment, can go anywhere they'd like. They can go to another bar and drink 2 more pitchers of beer. They could get in a cab and go straight home. But let's say subsequently that person does something silly, such as leave their house after getting home safely in a cab and driving to the corner store to pick up a pack of smokes, get in an accident and kill somebody. Or I think we had an example not recently in the state, but about 10 years ago about somebody going home and dangling their baby a la Michael Jackson over their balcony.
Yeah, that was a beauty, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, Dimitri, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you know about dram shop laws and what our viewers at home can do to protect themselves against, we'll say, owners who are a little flippant about them.
Dram shop law, as I understand it, is basically it's a third-party liability law. And God help me, I'm worried that we're actually putting this on YouTube for fear that somebody is going to decide that they can wind up figuring out a way of making a buck about it, because that does seem to be the American way. But basically, if somebody winds up being wronged by somebody who has what we will call poor judgment in their own limitations, basically, it's going to allow the person whose property or who has been wronged to be able to litigate to the people who serve the alcohol for the person that apparently has absolutely no sense of moral responsibility or personal responsibility to be able to take that in hand. It's basically what I would like to call a deep pockets law.
Yeah.
Whenever one is trying to sue or has been wronged and has something that they want to wind up being able to gain money from or what have you, usually what they're going to do is they're going to go after whoever is going to have the deepest pockets. In these instances, it would be the owners of private bars. It would be a corporation if it were a place that was a corporately run restaurant or what have you. And if somebody were to be drinking and driving and somehow managed to drive into your living room, the person who drove into your living room probably has absolutely nothing to lose and no damn money to wind up doing it, or they wouldn't have gotten so drunk that they would have drove into your living room. And therefore, somebody has to pay, and the person that's going to pay is going to be whatever entity was that served the person that has nothing to lose, because since they have nothing to lose, they had no problem with going ahead and doing something like getting so drunk that they would drive into your living room. Dram shop laws are good in the aspect that it creates a responsible service. There isn't somebody who is daring somebody to wind up getting drunk. It's why in America you don't see bars with people with whistles and mixing margaritas in your mouth as they pour them down your throat, at least not that I know of these days. I'm sure that they may exist in some college town somewhere. But basically the idea about it is that whoever is serving cannot serve somebody that obviously already shows signs of intoxication. What else did you want to
here's the thing.
For our viewers at home, I work, and we've worked together in the past at an establishment, informal dining.
Yes.
Casual dining establishment. Who was really good about this, I feel.
Actually, they were very good in their training. Not so much in the fact that everybody got the same statewide training, but they made sure all the supervisors got very specific training about it. They made sure that all their staff got very specific training, and that the supervisors were always kept informed about what was going on.
There was a process.
In fact.
Yes.
We won't describe what it's called here. We don't want to give away what the establishment, the corporation we were working with was. But essentially, you would serve, and after a certain point, you would have to notify your senior management staff, your senior experts, if you will, and they would ask the questions such as, have they been eating?
Amount of time that they've been there.
How long they've been there, how many drinks have they had, what kind of drinks have they had?
Have they shown any signs of intoxication?
Exactly. All of the things that would indicate whether or not somebody has had too much to drink. And then we would go forward from there. We wouldn't necessarily stop somebody just because we had this process in place, but we were very observant.
I wouldn't say that we wouldn't necessarily stop somebody because we had this process in place. I would say that there wasn't anything that was concrete. Everything was on a case-by-case basis. There are different people, whether it be different body types, different emotional states, different amounts of alcohol consumed, different types of alcohol consumed, the amount that they've eaten, etc. These are all variables that wind up going into the factor of whether or not there was a service issue.
Yes, and in addition, there's also medications. Medications have a very synergistic effect with alcohol, or alcohol has a very synergistic effect on medications, as you will. And here in the great state of Arizona and several states along the West Coast recently, there have been laws enacted that allow both medicinal and recreational forms of cannabis to be used. So now these are indications when people come into your establishment smelling of the Gansha? Is that what the kids are calling it?
I always called it Reefer Madness.
Reefer Madness. Ah! I love that movie. That's hilarious to me.
I do what I can.
So if those type of things, you might have a guest come in like that, and you might want to not serve that person, and that's within your right to do. If you are a server and you do not feel comfortable serving someone, I believe dram shop laws exist in every state in the union at this point.
I believe that
most certainly in Arizona.
From my knowledge, I would say that if you are not comfortable serving anybody, nobody ever has to wind up being served when it comes to alcohol, and that's because of the fact that most of the time it is a slippery slope.
Yeah,
I know that's definitely the case within the state that we reside in.
Yeah.
So
I guess that's all we need to talk about there.
So if you are watching this and you have had someone from upper management or ownership tell you to continue serving somebody that you believe has had too much and should be cut off, is too intoxicated, I don't believe you should fear any repercussions. If said repercussions do come from ownership and upper management, you may have litigious recourse.
Well, in a day and age of cell phones that can wind up recording any conversation or anything else that goes on, I would imagine that that wouldn't be a problem for anybody.
That's right. So if you have a smartphone...
I just made my job a lot more difficult.
Or easy,
Scratch
depending
that.
on your
We
point
should
of view.
cut that. Can we cut that? We can't cut that shit.
I can't.
All right, anyway, as we continue merrily along, if you are somebody who is an hourly and you've been forced to serve somebody that should not have been served, in your opinion, know that you're off the hook for that and figure out a way of documenting it.
Yep. All right. Well, we hope that we've been educational or entertaining, or at least informative. And if we have and you've enjoyed yourself, by all means, give us a thumb up. If you don't like what we've been talking about today, give us a thumb down. And if your emotions run deeper than that, feel free to leave a comment below describing what you would like to say. If you'd like to subscribe, please click on my pixelated friend's face. Thank you very much for joining you. Thank you very much for joining us.
How many have you had?
One.
Really?
But it's bottomless.
Okay.
Thank you for joining us. It's been my pleasure.
It probably has.
It has.